Bom dia. Dia das Mães.
Obrigada.
Bem?
Tudo e você?
Ótimo.
Essas são adultos ainda que estão resistindo? Que coisa boa! Acho que nos meus períodos tem bastante.
Vai
rosinha. É. Bom. Aliás, já tem um texto, esqueci, está no meu computador. Eu vou ler daqui.
E a academia tem uma impressora nova ali do lado.
É mesmo? Ixi, será que dá pra...
Agora acho que
Isso vai dar outro, né?
não manda pro WhatsApp.
Tá.
Se mandar pro WhatsApp, talvez não consiga. Você conseguiu achar o negocinho lá para figurar? Você esqueceu completamente de mandar o. Você esqueceu completamente.
Aparentemente.
Actors.
Isso.
Cíntia. Cíntia. Você botou de moda? É sordo. Cuidado aí, que agora você já vai começar a reunião para acalmar um pouco, senão você não fica muito agitado na reunião. Practicing patience here. Começa vou deixar aqui para você. Bom dia, Eduardo.
Bom dia.
Bem?
Bom dia.
Também. Bom dia.
Bom dia. Bom?
Bom? Tudo bom? Tudo bem? Tudo bem? Tudo bem? Bom. Tudo ótimo.
Fala, campeão.
Em português, não, Renata?
Sim, eu vou traduzir conforme eu falo. É que eu achei ele hoje de manhã. Você vai tentar incluir?
Quantos cópias? Só uma
Só para mim.
Tudo bem? É.
Bom, já está tudo pronto, como sempre fica sem professor. Primeira vez que você está fazendo esse barulho, ela fala, né? Se não parar, você avisa que a gente desliga. Acabei de usar.
Oi?
Acabei de usar.
Se quiser, pode.
Não, já está no processo de iniciar. Se desligar ela, agora eu estou fazendo problema. Desliga não, deixa ela processar. Ela para, ela se...
Assim que ela levantar a boa, ela tá. Está se preparando.
Ah, senhor. Cadê a chave do carro? Eu não esqueço do meu inteiro, nem eu. Celular, assim. Esqueceu da chave do carro, eu não vou embora.
Isso é importante, porque ele está comigo, não? Ele vai de churrasco.
Controla aí.
Controla, vou deixar aqui o filósofo.
Or in the pickups?
Huh?
You're in the pickups?
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to start with our harmonization text. I found it this morning, it's in Portuguese, so I'm going to translate as I read. Please be patient, bear with me. To you, mommy. It's a message from May to her mom. And it's in the book, Relicário de Luz. Dear mommy, on your blessed day, when so many rooms have their doors open for parties to glorify your name, I want to tell you that it's in you that I think every day. When I go back home after studying with my fingers stained of ink, I think about you when I put my books away and wash my hands. When someone annoys me or hurts my feelings, I run to you wishing to hide myself on your lap. When I get tired every night, I search for you to sleep at peace. Mommy, when I make a mistake, don't leave me. Take me under your sweet wings and teach me to walk the straight path. You still don't know how much I love you? I get sad if you cry and happy when you smile. Everywhere I go, your image is always with me because you are the angel that God put on earth to guide my steps. I love you more than anything. I am part of your love, like a flower in the loving heart of a tree. That's why, dear mommy, that I think about you, not just today, but forever, eternally. Let's do the final initial prayer. Dear Lord, our merciful Father, please bless us this beautiful Sunday. We thank you that we are physically fit to be here. We thank you for all the blessings that you shower upon us. And we thank you most of all for the life that we are living right now. Because if it wasn't for your mercy, we wouldn't be able to be here. Dear Lord, enlighten our minds. Help us understand and feel what we are going to see today, so that we can awaken our conscience to one more little thing. May what we study today make a difference for the better in our lives. And may we be able to leave our beloved house today and practice some of what we have learned. So, thank you. Right? Why don't you? Awesome. Thank you more. Okay, so of course today is Mother's Day, and funny enough, Mother's Day is international. Father's Day is different in every country. However, to all the Brazilian fathers, that does not give you the right to have two Father's Day, just so you know. Okay? That's not how it works. You need to pick one. Well, we can celebrate both, but gifts just one. If there are gifts. Because children are the biggest gift. Right, CJ? Yes. Perfect. Unconditional love. Unconditional love. So, what we're going to see today was taken from basically 6 books, but there are more. Yay, welcome back. Okay, so one of them, Saúde da Relação Pais e Filhos, by Alírio Cerqueira. And I recommend this book to everybody, not just parents, but children, because we all have parents, right? We all came from somewhere. It is, it's not just for us as parents, whoever is a parent, but it gives us a completely new vision of who we are as our parents' children. Okay, so I recommend this book to everybody. I have to confess that I read a few things here that left me dumbfounded. You know, dumbfolded? Like,
No.
Queixo caído. Of course, Spirit's book, Gospel According to Spiritism, Our Daily Bread, Relicário de Luz, the message I read by May, and Consolador. And like I said, a few other things that I would be here talking just about the bibliography forever. So the way we're going to go today, there is way too much about the subject because motherhood is something complex. So we are going to try to stick with what the Spiritist Doctrine explains about maternal love. But there's a whole lot more. When we go to family and fathers as well, it gets huge. So we're going to try and stick with this part. So we're going to go around in the loop and close again. So first question. What do we all have in common? All human beings, the whole of humanity. All of us in this room with all the other 7 billion incarnated and probably 21 billion discarnated. What do we all have in common?
We all have moms. we are daughters.
I am
not necessarily.
Some father. We all came from mothers. Well, we incarnated here, yes, but we can say the same thing about the discarnated spirits. We can say they had in their previous incarnations, but not right now. Who is the biggest mother of all? Way bigger than Mary.
Nature?
God.
We are used to saying that God is our Father because we have that old idea of God as the old man sitting on the throne. God has no sex. God is the energy of the universe. Our spirit has no sex. So we are used to talking about God as a masculine figure, but God is not man or a woman. And in the sense that we understand a loving mother and maternal love, the biggest mother of all is God. So incarnated or discarnated, we are all children of God. Can we agree on that? Mm-hmm. In that case, what connects us all? Incarnated, discarnated, and the whole entire universe. Primitive planets, trial and expiation planets, happy planets, regeneration planets. Yes. No, yes. That's the next after. That's the next answer after this one. It's just that his love is a small part of the big part. that I'm looking for. We are all subject to the divine laws. Moral, physical, biological, right? So the whole entire universe, all the spirits that God created are subject to the divine laws. No exceptions, no breaking the law, no bending the law just a little bit because I think I'm special. No, we are all subject to the divine laws. Now is what you were going to say. Which one law is special? What's the major law, the biggest law of the universe? Oops, exactly. Sorry. So it's the law of love, charity, and justice. Mostly the law of love. Everything starts with the law of love. They are one major law, but love stands above all. Okay? Now, we were talking about mother, who is the biggest mother of all. And then I asked you, is maternal love a myth? In the 80s and beginning of the 90s, there were quite a few authors that published books with researchers saying that maternal love is a myth, that it depends on cultural background, it depends on a whole lot of external issues, that basically humans are animals, and just like any other animals, they can abandon their offspring, a cria. They can abandon their offspring. Therefore, maternal love is a myth. That's the conclusion some authors got to. Do you agree? Do you think maternal love is a myth, that it depends on culture? No. Are there mothers that abandon their children?
In many cultures. It's not related to culture. It is.
Oh, I asked first. Okay, so now let's see what the Spirit's books say about this. So, question 773. Why is it that among animals, parents and offspring no longer recognize each other when the latter no longer need care? The latter is the second. Okay, so when the offspring, so when the offspring no longer needs care, parents and offspring stop recognizing each other. Kids go their own way. Some animals stay longer. Some animals, for example, like the snake, they lay the eggs and go. They never even see their offspring. Other animals, like bears, will kill anything that gets near their cubs. However, even mama bears will let their cubs go when the cubs don't need her care. When she taught the cubs everything the cubs need to survive in nature, they go their separate ways. So Allan Kardec asks the Spirit, why does that happen? Why do you think? Do you have any idea, any opinions?
I don't know. I don't understand the question.
Allan Kardec pergunta, por que entre os animais, os pais e as crias não se reconhecem mais, uma vez que as crias não precisam mais do cuidado dos pais? Por que isso acontece?
Well, it doesn't happen in all animals. I'm not sure.
In general.
Yeah,
In general.
Yeah, but
Considering the ones that have.
yeah,
Mostly.
yeah, most of them, yeah.
Rarely an animal will stay, like for example, many predators, when the cub gets to a certain age, they have to leave, or they're going to be competition to their father, for example, right? Why does that happen? Let's see. Animals live a material life, not a moral life. A mother's tenderness for her young has as its principle the instinct of preservation regarding the beings born to her. So moms need to preserve their offspring so that there will be a continuation to life, right, in that species. When these beings are able to take care of themselves, her task is fulfilled, and nature requires no more of her. That is why she abandons them in order to occupy herself with more newborns. So she just doesn't abandon them and go clubbing and go dancing and go shopping at Hope Renfrew. She needs to take care of the next offspring. See how it's different for animals? They live a material life. Their instincts of preservation lead them to procreate, to continue the species. So far, so good? Then, question 774. There are people who infer. Isso, yeah, dá a entender, ou compreende. There are people who infer from animals' abandonment of their spring. Então, do abandono que os animais fazem da cria deles, algumas pessoas compreendem que the family ties, os laços de família, among humans, are merely a result of the social customs and not a natural law. What should we make of this? So that's the first question I asked. Is maternal love a myth? Because in the 80s and 90s, a whole lot of people seem to think that they were. They were just a cultural thing. Okay? So, Allan Kardec, way before that, had already asked that question, right? In the mid-1800s, he had already asked that question. So, what should we make of this? How should we understand this? Human beings have a different destiny than that of the animals. So why do you always want to identify with them? Okay, it's funny because I remember when I was a kid in school, we had basically 3 kingdoms: mineral, vegetal, and animal, right? And then as I grew up, I learned that there's a 4th, human, because we have biological life, we have animal life. However, we're not the same as animals. We have a different destination than animals. We have a different destiny. Like we saw in the previous question, animals live a material life. Their instincts tell them to procreate. For us humans, no. For humans, there is something beyond physical needs. There is the need to progress. Social ties are necessary for progress, and family ties are summed up in social ties. So family is the smaller cell, social is the bigger cell. So our family is like our laboratory. It's where we practice so that we can do it in society, which is a bigger cell. Hence, por isso, family ties are a natural law. God has thus, dessa maneira, willed that humans learn to love one another as brothers and sisters. So we can't compare ourselves to animals who abandon their children. And again, when you talk about cultural differences, maybe some cultures have somewhere in their social rules that the mother won't stay with the child right after birth. But how do you explain that in a culture like ours, that among people who say they are Christians, mothers abandon their children or practice abortion? Christians should not be doing that. So is that just culture? No. It's personal, individual, and transferable. Okay? Okay, so if God willed us humans to learn to love one another as brothers and sisters, where is that love going to come from? In the physical life, when we reincarnate, where does that love start?
With us,
Us who?
like the mother, the person.
The person who is being born or the person who is carrying and giving birth? Or the other person who contributed to make that little baby? Because we can't forget that without the father's contribution, there can't be babies, right?
And I have heard that fathers cannot claim to celebrate 2 times, but you get 2 presents, right?
I just said that,
I was
yeah.
late, but it was here for you too.
Selective hearing.
But it's not from our conscience, it's naturally.
We have the seed there, but in life, like in the flesh, not carne. Where does it start in the flesh? Think about the process of reincarnation.
Well, thinking about the process, I would think the love would come from when you make a commitment to accept that child.
But that's still in the spiritual realm.
Yeah.
I'm thinking
That's
physical.
what I was saying.
I'm thinking physical.
Gestação.
Physical in the flesh.
Gestação.
Gestation.
Gestation?
Yes.
Wow.
Let's see. Yeah.
I think it's, I don't know, it's almost like it's different for everyone.
I will change. I was trying to make the question a bit harder. If I make the question easy, the answer will be obvious.
Let's talk about feelings.
Yes. Who is the first one to love us?
Mom.
So question 890. Is maternal affection a virtue or is it an instinctive feeling common to men and animals? Can animals love?
Their way, like they have some attachments.
Yeah.
So is it affection? Is it a virtue or is it instinct that makes mothers love their offspring? If it's instinct, how do you explain that some mothers hate their children from the moment they discover they are pregnant?
Because maybe they don't hate the child, but they hate being pregnant, or they hate having to deal with that situation. But I think it starts as an instinct and then it will turn into a feeling.
If we think about ourselves in terms of evolution, everything starts as an instinct, progresses to a sensation, and finally to real feelings, right?
But hate, even it means love, so you have love.
Actually, you don't. It's the absence of love, right?
Yeah,
Okay, it's a hole that you need to fill with love.
because you do every day.
Yeah. So Kardec wasn't sure if it's a virtue or if it's instinct. Let's see what the Superior Spirit said. It's both.
Oh, there we go.
Nature has endowed, dotou a mãe. A natureza dotou a mãe. Nature has endowed the mother with the love of her children in the interest of their preservation. That's the instinct part. But in the animal, this love is limited to their material needs and ceases when such care is no longer needed. So Mama Bear will kill anything that gets close to her cubs. But once the cubs are gone, that's it. She's worried about the next offspring. Those ones are taken care of, good and done. Check mark. Next.
Okay, but for humans, it's instinctive.
Let's see. No, it says, nature has endowed the mother, all mothers, animals and humans, with the love of her children in the interest of her preservation. So everything starts with the instinct. And then it progresses.
Yeah.
So in humans, it persists. Okay? So it starts as an instinct. But then in humans, it persists throughout life and consists in a devotion and self-denial that comprise true virtues. It even survives death itself accompanying the child from beyond the grave. Oh, it gives me goosebumps.
There are a lot of examples of,
Spiritist literature gives us so many
and
examples.
cases of mothers that come to mediumistic meetings, like
Yeah,
asking, begging for their children and trying to.
yeah. This case is
Yeah.
actually the opposite. Mothers
Yeah,
come back
I know.
from the grave and to protect and love their offspring.
Yeah.
Not just mothers, fathers as well. But again, we're talking about maternal love, okay? So
Today's
please,
Mother's
so
Day.
please, man, please, guys. It's just that we're talking about maternal love, but fathers as well, okay? Just like André Luiz did in Nosso Lar for his family. He went to check if his family was Okay, and now we're gonna go into the specifics of, even though fathers do it too, now we're going to the specifics of why is this connection so much stronger in the mother than in the father? So when does this relationship start? This bond, mother-child, that will persist throughout life and beyond life. This self-denial of herself on behalf of her children. When does that relationship start?
I don't know.
We are just talking about physical, just incarnation.
Incarnation, when the pregnancy starts.
Sometimes before.
When you say about like the material side.
Okay.
Just, yes, we're talking about material life in the flesh. On planet Earth, like material planet Earth, not spiritual planet Earth. During conception, the child's first spirit is attached to the mother's first spirit.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh no, you haven't seen anything yet. Wait, there's way more. There's way more. So, oh, and by the way,
Just remember, we are all learning.
yes.
We are not perfect yet. We still are making mistakes.
So-
it's okay.
In the book, Missionários da Luz, in the book Missionários da Luz, there is a chapter called, actually there are two amazing chapters. One is called Preparação, and the next one is called Reencarnação. And it describes the reincarnation process of Sigismundo. So it shows like the preparation in terms of genetics, all the kinds of physical problems he's gonna face and all that. And then the chapter and all the whys. So why does that happen? It's not just how, but why that happens. And the next chapter, reincarnation, explains the whole process. And this is an interesting example because it's not an example where both parents are feeling it. The mother wants it, the father doesn't, because they are past enemies. And at first, in the spiritual world, the father agreed to have him as a child. But then after incarnating, he stepped back and he was like, I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can do it. And things start getting complicated. And this chapter explains all this complicated relationship, but it also tells, for anybody who is wanting, trying to get pregnant, I really recommend that chapter. I read it before I got pregnant with my first son. It explains exactly how this attachment happens. And again, it gives me goosebumps because it's something so beautiful, so blessed, so amazing that I recommend to everybody. Missionários da Luz. Okay, I really recommend it.
And just to comment about that, there's a lot of technical terms that if you think about when the book was written, like, wow, how would they know this? Some of the things that we know more nowadays. That
Yes, it's stuff that wasn't known at the time.
Yeah. And also some of the instincts that, or insights, let's say, that we have as mothers or even fathers.
Oh, hold on, we're gonna talk about that.
Okay.
Hold on.
That will come.
Don't jump the gun.
The helpers.
Don't jump the gun.
All right.
Yes. So yeah, again, and the book explains all that, how the spiritual world helps us. You can also see some of that explanation of what goes like in the backstage, the making of. You can also see in Transição Planetária. They explain in simpler terms. It's worth reading Missionários da Luz.
Not as detailed.
Yeah, in Transição Planetária, it's not as detailed, but it gives you an idea of all the background preparation that the spiritual world gives us, incarnated people, when we are in the process of trying to have children. And that's both father and mother, not just mother. So during conception, the child's first spirit is attached to the mother's first spirit. During the whole gestation, there you go, more gestation, the child who is reincarnating is intimately connected to the mother, physically through the umbilical cord and placenta, so the baby can be fed, and psychically, mostly with the mother, but with the father to a lesser degree, if it's a present father. Okay? So the child, at this stage, the child is affected by everything. Some people think that it's just what the mother goes through. It's not. It's everything that happens in the outside as well. They can hear and feel when the father talks to them, music, reading, father and mother talking to the baby, all that gets registered. Okay? This energetic spiritual connection is so strong that it lasts until the child is 7 years old, which is when the reincarnation is complete. Okay, some people think that the pure spirit only finishes attaching to the body at 7. No, it's attached to the body the moment of conception. But at 7 years old, the whole cycle closes. The reincarnation is complete. Okay? When the child is born, the physical umbilical cord is cut, but there is a fluidic umbilical cord that keeps the spiritual connection with the mother. The physical connection is gone, but the psychic and fluidic connection still exists. You know the silver cord? Mothers have that silver cord with their children until those kids are 7 years old.
Let's come back and make some change.
Your kids are not 7 yet, so that's
Not
okay.
7,
Mine are already. I'm just thinking like,
Yeah. But like I said, I recommend this book now absolutely everybody, not just mothers and fathers, but to all of us in relation to our parents. Okay? So, and this connection with the fluidic umbilical cord explains a lot of the phenomena that happens between mother and child. You know, like when the child sneezes or coughs, nobody hears, only the mother.
Mm-hmm.
The mother can be in deep sleep. If she senses that the child is in any trouble, she will wake up. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Not anymore.
But you know what? But you know what? I can tell you. When I don't have my children, I have deep sleep.
Yeah, of course, me too.
No. When I don't have my children, I have deep sleep. When I have my children, no.
In my case,
And mine are best sellers.
I don't sleep. But if he's with me, then I sleep.
But you know what?
because you know,
Because you know he's going to.
yeah, instinctively, you know
Yeah.
that someone is there
Because-
to take over for you. You're not there.
Because you are a good team. You are in sync.
I think
You
that's
know,
what it is.
before
You trust
children,
the other person.
I
too.
didn't have
So the connection just goes like all around.
Yeah, that's also
Okay,
a
but
personal
after
that varies.
children, I have a deep sleep, but usually my eyes open alone
minutes before Noah's wakes. It's incredible. Like, I wait and say, oh my gosh, he will wake. And they, Mom!
Exactly. So that's, now you know why. It's because of this comedic connection that we still have with our children. After 7 years, it's the end of the first childhood. Give or take, it depends on the child as well, okay? So give or take, I would say between 6 and 8, depending on the child. This connection starts to dissolve little by little, and it will be completely gone when they reach their teenage years.
That explains it in your case. You have to wait.
The
other one is completely.
Okay, so it completely disappears in the beginning of adolescence. And the beginning of adolescence, sometimes, you know, the whole, oh, teenagers are this or teenagers are that. I believe it's in question 385, I believe it is. So, dei uma colinha aqui para vocês. And I think this question has like a long answer. And in this question, the spirits explain that at about 15, 14, 16, depending on the child, that's when all of our past characteristics come full throttle to our personality. That's why all of a sudden teenagers are completely different people. You're like, that's not the child I raised. Yes, it is. But now, at this age, everything, all their old burdens come full throttle to their lives. So that's why sometimes we feel like there's a personality change or something.
First few years were like you kind of
First childhood from 0 to 7. That's when they are more open to any influence. Okay? Like I said, I recommend this book to everybody. We just bought a few more because I was like, everybody needs to read this book.
Yeah.
It's a must.
I'm not even in the middle of the book yet.
It's amazing.
But it is really
What's the name?
What's the next?
Saúde da relação pais e filhos. Saúde da relação pais e filhos. And, you know, it talks about case studies. It talks about what is a normal teenage behavior. So what to look for if you think your teenager is not acting properly. How do you know if he's a normal teenager or not? It's absolutely awesome.
And the beginning talks about the difference between what's the mother's job.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that too.
No, I'm not going to say what it is.
Other horses.
It's also like making, because fathers are as important as mothers, but it's like.
Hold on. Don't jump the gun. Don't jump the gun.
I'm not going to say what.
Let's go because we only have 1 hour.
We want to encourage fathers to read the book too.
Até os 7 anos se preparando. Vai no segue.
That's something that's not accurate to say that we can't mold them. They are more open, eles são mais suscetíveis, eles estão mais abertos, eles são uma agila mais maleável. Mas também o livre-arbítrio nunca é tirado nem mesmo.
Mas o que eu quero dizer é o seguinte, para mim entender isso aí, depois de 7 anos, é como se a consciência, eu não entendi.
A reencarnação, não. O que vem no passado, as características que vêm completamente do passado na adolescência. Então, mas leia a questão que explica super bem. A questão está super bem explicada. Aqui não dá tempo da gente falar. Isso. Eu recomendo ler todas as 2 ou 3 antes e as 2, 3 depois, para fazer sentido no contexto do porquê que Kardec está fazendo aquela pergunta. Ok? Mas é bem explicado, nessa pergunta isso é bem explicado. Quando acaba a primeira infância, quando vem as características do passado, livro dos espíritos.
Não, mas tem explicado no outro livro isso que eu
No, in some, there are some spirit books questions, but not all of these. Okay? So when the child is born, the physical, we already did this, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and this was taken from Saúde da Relação Pais e Filhos, a Lei do Sequeira. God is the creator, and the mother is a co-creator by excellence. So who created the cells was God. However, mother and father get together to co-create from what God gave us. The sperm and the egg.
That's my.
And then we co-create. Okay, so let's show that in my interviews. So it should go on my resume. So God is the creator and the mother is a co-creator by excellence. Because while the father co-creates offering one cell, the mother co-creates offering her own body, her blood, her life, and a series of biological and spiritual functions. And this is why the connection to the mother is stronger. The child's first spirit is attached to the mother's first spirit. The father has an extremely important role, and we know that. We know the difference. We can see the difference between children who were raised without a father or without a mother, and children who were raised with both. Even kids from divorced parents, but that had both figures, father and mother. God creates the spirit, and parents co-create the physical body. Does that make sense? Just like Jesus manipulated matter, that's what the mother does. She manipulates her body, manipulates those two cells to create a tiny human being. In a profound view, according to transpersonal psychology, the mother is the archetype, o arquétipo. Arquétipo é o modelo original que pode ser copiado. So the mother is the archetype of the connection with God. So the mother is the model of the connection with God. The mother's main function is to provide the child with this model of connection with God, because it is the mother who generates us. This way, she gives us a momentary existence in the body, the same way God gives us the spiritual existence. God created the spirit, the mother, with the father's help, co-creates the body. And because of this co-creation, there's this association in psychology that the mother is the archetype of the connection with God because of the co-creation. Okay? In that case, and it says, a mother's role, a mother's function is to provide the child with this model of connection. In that case, are mothers different from fathers?
Yes.
Let's see a few questions.
In the case,
But they're not doing
The
real life or
in the case of,
Guys, let's go back here.
give us the answer then.
Okay, so let's go back a little. Let's go back a little and see another question before we answer this one. Are men and women equal in the sight of God, and have they the same rights?
Yeah.
I love this answer. It's the has not God given to them both the knowledge of good and evil and the faculty of progressing? Like, really? Do you have to ask? Oh, of course, my friend. So has not God given them both the knowledge of good and evil and the faculty of progressing? Okay, but that is the answer. There's no rest. It's like, of course, buddy. But of course, Kardec's never happy. He has to keep asking and poking and
He
poking.
wants to make sure that everyone understands.
Yeah. So a few questions later, and I got them wrong here. My apologies. It's 7:22 and 22. So a few questions later. Finish. Okay, I will fix it. So I'm sorry, this is 8. That's why it's not making sense, because it's 800, not 700. I'm sorry. 800. So a few questions later, in question 822, he asks, since all people are equals, after that answer, since all people are equals before God's law, shouldn't they also be equals before human law? Remember, this was asked 160 years ago. Women had the right to remain silent. Everything they said could and would be used against them. Okay? And then the Spirit's answer. This is the first principle of justice. Do not do unto others what you do not want them to do unto you. Aqui tá errado, aqui é tá? É unto, igual aqui. So, do not do unto others what you do not want them to do unto you. Treat others the way you would like to be treated. Golden rule, basic and simple. But Kardec keeps talking, and then he asks 822a. Accordingly, in order for legislation to be perfectly just, shouldn't it consecrate equality of rights between men and women? Remember, 160 years ago, I'm not talking about burning bras and panties. Equality of rights, yes. Of functions, no.
That I was thinking about.
All people must have a specific place, and their occupations should reflect their aptitude. As parents, mothers and fathers have different functions with their children. We live in a modern society where nowadays, many times, it is required that the woman works to help the father, or sometimes because they're divorced or widowed. But sometimes women need to work. That does not excuse mothers from still being that archetype of the connection with God. The time the mother gets to spend with the children, no matter how many hours, has to be full of that example, of that connection with God, with God's love. Here they have the expression quality time. That's what it means for mothers. Okay? So, in order to be just, human law, and this is the continuation of the answer, it's not here, it's just here. Human law must consecrate the rights between men and women. Any special privilege granted to one and not to the other is contrary to justice. Love, charity, justice. Besides, sex exists only in the physical. Become either, as we have, then both. There are no differences between them in this respect. Consequently, they should enjoy the same rights. 160 years ago. Okay.
Just a comment, interesting that when it says functions, no, all people must have, he didn't say specifically, men and women have different, like, it's people, right?
Yeah.
And as you said,
Our physical organization is different. Men are naturally stronger men. Women are naturally physically weaker than men, but with a potential, with a predisposition to maternity, maternal love, that connection of the silver cord with the child, and that's something that it's different because of our physical constitution. We are built differently, and there is a reason for that. Sometimes we have to play each other's roles as parents, okay? So sometimes the mother has to play the father's role, and the father, let's not say role because that sounds false, function. Sometimes the mother has to do the function of the father. Sometimes the father has to do the function of the mother. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But we are talking about what is the natural course of things. As our situation changes, as parents, one of the parents die, or there's divorce, or whatever happens down the road that we need to make adjustments, the adjustments are completely fine, as long as we're providing those children with both functions.
Physically, hormones make so much difference.
Oh, yes.
We know.
Okay, so let's see,
Most of us, we
let's
know.
see what are the functions. And again, I repeat, read the book because the book explains in detail the function of the mother and the father. So remember when we talk about the horizontal evolution and the vertical evolution? So the function of the mother, again, is to be the archetype of the connection with God. So the mother is the one who will teach the child to pray, will pray with the child, will give the child, no matter if boy or girl, the first notions of moral, of right and wrong. And the father is the archetype of the connection with the earth, the provider, the handyman, the how to do daily things, how to use a screwdriver, how to whatever.
That is me.
Wow.
I'm the father.
Like I said, sometimes sometimes the functions interchange, and again, it's okay. We are talking about archetypes. We're talking about initially the models. And if we think about our parents even, we don't even have to go back too far, not even our grandparents, but our parents. If we think about our parents, this is pretty much what we see. And then between the two archetypes, theoretically, the child would be progressing both horizontally and vertically. Okay? Again, here we're talking about where mother and father intersect. But all of us as human beings have our individual, no matter if man or woman, have our individual horizontal, which is intelligence, and vertical, which is moral. Okay? So here it's just the intersection of the functions of father and mother. Just one.
Actually, we should be calling God our mother and earth our father nature.
Thinking on that perspective, yes, you got a point. Now, can parenthood, be considered? Can parenthood be considered a mission? Nossa, comigo é tá eu tava digitando no computador e às vezes ele não me entende. Can parenthood be considered a mission? It is, without any doubt, a mission, and at the same time, a very great duty, which involves parents more than they might think concerning their responsibility for the future. Having sex and physically making or co-creating a child, anybody can do. Being a parent, it's not just co-creating a body. Okay, we have duties, we have, great duty, we have functions to perform as parents. It's not just having sex and co-creating a body. Continuation of the answer. God has placed children under the care of their parents so that they may guide them on the path of goodness, and has facilitated their task by giving children a frail and delicate organization, which renders them accessible to all sorts of oppression. So again, first childhood until 7, when they're so cutie, they are more accessible. And that also helps us love them more, because we are looking at that tiny human and we're not seeing all the baggage that comes from the past. Okay? So that's a whole system that helps us progress together. Is love always unconditional? Is this love, maternal love, always unconditional? Do all mothers love their children unconditionally?
Could be, but I think I'm not sure about that. If everyone has this type of love.
So let's see what question 891 says. We're not there.
Was there?
There. Sorry. Question, I didn't put the animation, sorry. Question 891. Since maternal affection is a natural sentiment, why is it that mothers often hate their children, and even in some cases, before their birth? And the other way around is true as well. Sometimes the child hates or has an aversion to the mother or the father. And the explanation is the same. All kinds of hate or aversion or avoidance of the mother or the father, the explanation is the same. The absence of maternal or paternal affection or filial affection is sometimes a trial chosen by the spirit of the child, or an expiation for him if he has ever been a bad father, a bad mother, or a bad son in some previous existence. There's also the issue of past enemies. Okay?
In that book you mentioned that was the case.
Yes, Sigismund. Yes, that was the case with Sigismund. That's why his father was like, eh. Because Sigismund had killed the spirit that was now going to be his father. And his father was afraid of him. Okay?
Which book?
Missionários da Luz. I really recommend. And again, for mothers specifically, or mothers to be, there's one part of this book, Saúde da Relação Pais e Filhos, where they talk about something that is very touchy for mothers, and again, us as children as well, that it's a myth and it's a lie that mothers love all their children the same. It is hard to read. My experience as a mother, it was very hard to read that, because we have that myth and we have to say out loud, I love my children all the same. I love my children all the same. I love my children all the same. And it's a lie. And Alírio explains why it's a lie and what we're supposed to do with the differences. So it's really good. I recommend.
That's a good point. I have a difficult sometimes because I'm so truth with my sentimentals, and sometimes I express some thoughts about that, and someone can look for me like, oh,
I recommend.
I'm not a good mom, but you have a different feelings, and sometimes it's good to share.
But we have the cultural, myth.
But you can't assume that.
Yeah, we have a cultural myth, and you know, it is an issue that we have to resolve internally anyway. Not everybody's prepared to hear that.
Acknowledging is one thing. The other thing is not trying to make this relationship work. Because that's the point of the explanation of the book too.
Yeah.
You have a work to do.
Yes. Okay. So, in summary, we have the family where the mother and the father co-create and collaborate. Labor, trabalhar. So we work with God. We co-create the child and work with God for the child's evolution. Remember the breath, right? Now, the child that comes from this family, or the children, we need to remember they are not our possession. They are God's children. And as spirits, they are temporarily our children here. But we are all brothers and sisters in humanity. So the two little people I have as my children in this incarnation, they don't belong to me. They are a divine loan, um empréstimo divino to help. They help me progress. I help them progress. But we are brothers and sisters in humanity. I don't own them. They're not my property to do with them what I will. Okay? And they are temporarily children of these covenants because they are spirits of the universe. We are God's children. Our parents in this incarnation are not necessarily, or probably, they were not our parents in the previous one, possibly. So it's not ownership. We don't own our children. We don't forget our children, like animals do. However, for us as well, when adulthood comes, we as parents and our parents are supposed to let us go, make our own way in the world. So that preparation, the first childhood, second childhood, adolescence, that connection with God. So that connection with God and that connection with earth is what will give us the tools to evolve. So as parents, we will always be able to give our children suggestions when they're adults. We can always suggest, but we can never impose. We are not omnipotent like God. So if we do our job properly during childhood and teenage years, hopefully that child will progress to where they need to be. But again, we need to remember, this is not our first rodeo, like they say here. This is not our first time. We bring our baggages. And if the parents have done the best they could and their child still does not turn out okay, as long as the parents have done everything they possibly could, then that's that spirit's responsibility and not the parents anymore. But we need to make sure that we do our part the way we're supposed to be, that we do our functions of mother and father, sometimes interconnected, sometimes switched. As long as both functions are done, the child is supposed to be progressing, both horizontally and vertically. Questions or comments?
Very, very good lectures. Thank you a lot. And you gave me and us a lot of things to search and study. My point is, in case of adoptions, how that's connection.
Everything, absolutely everything that you heard here transferred to adoption, except the connection during conception. But even the silver cord gets transferred in the case of an adoption. The book explains that.
Which one?
Just final comments and we're done.
Missionário da Luz ou
A saúde das relações pais-filhos. Yes, Alírio explains that all the functions get transferred in case of adoption. All the connections, they are reproduced for the adopted child. And I have a personal experience. My sister is adopted, and I can say that's totally true. And quite a few people, when I say she's adopted, are shocked because they're like, "No, she looks like you. She talks like you." And I know. Okay. And again, it's this. It's God's wisdom. It's God's omniscience. So it all gets transferred because at that moment, that child, that tiny being, is part of that family. If you welcome the child as a parent, then it's the same thing. The only difference is that you didn't co-create the physical body, but everything else is the same.
And we can assume it's the same for homosexual couples too, when they adopt a child, or
Yes.
You mean like a same
transfer.
mother?
Transfer.
Genders, right?
Yeah.
Yes, in gender couples.
Yeah. I believe so, that's
I
true.
believe so too.
Yeah, the connection,
Because all the parents,
Well, connection is more to
Both
spirit,
are, right?
right?
it's,
And they also provide the love to the child. So
it's connected to some of us. And actually, that is why sometimes a surrogate mother, sometimes a surrogate mother
change her mind.
changes her mind and doesn't want to give the child. Because the connection with the first spirit, that has to be done so the mother can co-create the child. That can be skipped just because the baby will be adopted. But sometimes that connection is so strong that the surrogate mother gives up. Well, no, gives up is the wrong one. She changes her mind about
Yeah, it's hard
giving the
because
child.
biologically the child's not first, right?
Sometimes,
Yeah,
sometimes
sometimes it's not. It's just
Yeah, it's a
like-
case by case.
Yeah. You just go over it, like some people say.
Okay, so today, let's look at our mothers and fathers differently. Right? Maybe after we become parents, sometimes we forget about our own parents. We're so focused on our children that we forget to be their children, right? So everything we saw here, it was the same process for our parents with us. So all the love, all the self-denial. And like I said, with our parents, it was probably something very close to that act. So nowadays, we have a modern, different society, but no more questions, no more comments? No. We're ready for kids. Okay. Oh, thank you for listening. Not my words, I just organized. I'm just a spokesperson. Ela pensou bem, se ela ia dar, se ela ia ficar com a rosa, olha o que ela agora tem que ia pensar bem. Mas ela vai ficar na
So special for our Mother's Day, we have a special gift for all of you. The kids are gonna deliver a beautiful song here. So feel love. My sunshine, you make me happy. Never know how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. My sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy. It's 'cause of you. You never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. Please don't take my sunshine away. Very welcome. Very welcome. 1, 2, 3. I love you, mommy.
Parabéns, muito bonito.
Tão bonitinho.
Like
É pra mamãe, é pra
Okay, so let's do our final prayer, Lord. Before I start the final prayer, I have a little quote from Mother Teresa that is very beautiful. And it says, "You will teach them to fly, but they will not fly your flight. You will teach them to dream, but they will not dream your dream. You will teach them to live, but they will not live your life. However, in every flight, in every life, in every dream, the print of the way you taught them will always remain." Thank you. Dear Lord, dear Master Jesus, we thank you for the blessed opportunity to be here. We thank you for allowing, for helping our mothers co-create us and helping those of us who are mothers co-create our children. Lord, with our hearts filled with gratitude, we welcomed your children and we try to do our best. Lord, enlighten the heart of all the mothers all over the world. Beloved Mary of Nazareth, fill the hearts of all the sad mothers, of all the mothers who lost their children, with love, with hope, that it's just a quick goodbye and see you later. Help all the mothers who are having difficulties with their children to persist with love, to understand, to have patience, and to treat their children according to Jesus' posture. Please, blessed Mother of Nazareth, bless our mothers on this day, wherever they are, incarnated, discarnated, and help us be good children to our parents and good parents to our children.